hey, YouTube, Facebook, and whatnot, wherever this ends up, the usual. I've got a new video here, obviously, and video of something that I've been working on. And let me show you what it is. Obviously, you can see the vehicle itself here. And it's pretty obvious that it's a truck. But it's not just a truck, it's got some other features in it, of course. And, well, it doesn't have as many features as a lot of my models, but it is kind of special for me. And let me show you why here. So I can beware of crackling. Okay. So, pretty detailed for, like, total build time of about 8 hours, maybe. Just split up in days, because, I've got stuff to do more than this, winch here that you can see, not motorized. This is just a very basic for backward, left, right control vehicle. The only difference in it that's never really been seen in any of my others is, I guess, headlights, for one thing. And obviously they're adjustable because I got myself a new battery box, the 8878 rechargeable battery box. And it works very nice, quite well. Runs on one receiver for all of its, radio controlled stuff, and it's right there. Kind of camouflaged, like disguised inside, just a little, but not greatly. I'm sure many of people have talked about how they like the fact that you can charge this without taking it out of the model, and this one it's still really open, but I did that so that I could have the headlight control easy access. This is also the first. This is the first time I've made something that looked good with front wheels that had four-wheel steering. But I've made something before, and turn that down. I made something before, and for any of you that have heard of Faction, you've probably played it, and for anyone who hasn't played it, there's a vehicle in it that's kind of interesting. It's got 6 wheels, 2 in the back, 4 in the front, and 4-wheel steering, all-wheel drive, and I made something kind of like that, but with only 2-wheel drive, because I don't really have the right parts for, steering and drive. I've only ever made one successful 4-wheel drive, as you guys know, so, I guess that one that I made kind of resembled an Elvis Stalwart, so, kind of interesting, but anyway, this one is just new for me. This is just something that I haven't really done before. So, take a look at the bottom here, and you can see, kind of see anyway, that there's a motor here. That's the medium motor, which for the first time I've made something that drives with a medium motor, and I can open up this back portion and show you how the drive works. Just gotta pop some stuff off here and here. So you take those off, and then you just pull on the back, and it's got a hinge. It separates and it turns like this. I did that because this is the first time I've done something that runs on a drive like this one does, and I'm really proud of it because this is the first time I've ever made one that does this. But a lot of people use universal joints for drive with suspension, but this model has torsion for suspension, just very basic torsion. But let's see if I can find a good way to show you this. 2 differentials. I've been taking apart some of my Lego sets, So as you can see, as I pointed out, the medium motor's in there, and it's got universal joints here, and those transfer the drive from the motor. And because of the way the differentials are positioned, it can swerve over this way without running into this gear here. And the way it goes through is it's reduced to a drive of 1 and an output of 3. So it's reduced, obviously, just to, give it that better horsepower. So anyway, that gear goes down to the gear that drives the differential just behind it, which gives it slightly better rear wheel drive and better grip. And the differentials, as you obviously would know, allow the wheels to compensate, keeping 100% of the drive in use, just transferring an amount of it to the left or right wheel dependent on the turn, or equal if it's driving straight forward. And that's why I decided to use it, because it makes less waste of battery power. So yeah, just decided I'd try that. So it went together quite well. It's got a lot of reinforcement inside of it, and from here you can see the suspension, which is just these little gray bars that are all right along the wheel, and it was actually transferred down, and you can't really see it on this camera, but they do allow for a reasonable amount of suspension, with the torsion. But it's also partly the torsion inside the body, because the connections are kind of weak between them, and I did that because I wanted something with suspension, but not with a lot of it. So, yeah, that's that. I've got some of those mini linear actuators, and just for those of you who have not seen them, they're these tiny little things. Very convenient, work quite well, fit in small spaces, but because of this vehicle being driven by medium motors, I couldn't fit a lot in there and keep low weight without transferring to a lower gear ratio, and I really didn't want to go in too slow. I usually build fast stuff, so building something that's really slow was just out of the question for me, so I didn't gear it down too much. So, just put this all back together, and as I said, it's only got the forward, backward, left, and right, but those mini linear actuators would have fit nicely in here. And I was planning to make a dump truck so this whole bed could lift, but I went against that because, as I said, it's a low-weight vehicle. It's not something that can haul, too much, because that medium motor drive gear down only a 1 to 3 is really not very impressive. Speed and horsepower don't often come into play together. But, so now I've showed you the drive, and the steering is kind of hard to show you here, but I can make an attempt. Because it's got rack and pinion and return to center. And I used the return to center brake that was used in some of those older hockey sets. And, yeah, so that's what returns the wheels to center. It's got a huge, crazy gear ratio in the front to allow the return to center to easily, balance it back out. So it runs on medium motor too, and you can't really see that from here, but whatever. This is the first time I've made something in this scale that has interior, and you can't see it really well, but you can kind of see it if I turn on the headlights, because they have a little back flash that shows you the inside. So 2 little seats in there. and adjustable, as I was telling you about the headlights, which is very nice. And so that's the vehicle itself, and it's lightweight, which is very good. And in order to give it better traction, I put a lot of the weight in the front of the vehicle, just because that's what holds most of the weight. You know, the cab is up here, the battery box is up here, everything's up there. So I just gave it a whole bunch of the weight up there, because the front axles can hold so much more weight than the back axles because of that torsion, which puts a limit on how much it can, you know, resist. And I've used a very common steering unit here, and I've showed you this before, but I will show you it again because it's very common and I like it, and I use it a lot for things that just have basic steering. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, but it's very simple too. And the drive here, of course. And see if I can tilt this camera down to look at the floor so I can show you how it rolls. Bring that over there. And again, beware of crackling for a second. So, yeah, not a lot of space to drive, but I will show you what it can do. So, here we have the vehicle. Four-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, as I've told you. One receiver, 8878 battery box, and headlights. One unit of headlights. And I've already showed you the controller and everything, so, you know, the four-wheel steering there with the rack and pinion I'm showing you, and as I said, return to center works quite well with the gear ratio it's been given, and it's not fast, but it can support a pretty reasonable amount of weight with it, but not as much as it used to be able to. I can give you kind of an example of how much it can hold here. In fact, this will probably be the first test that I've done with the weight since building it, because when I first built it, when it was just a bare, you know, necessities in there, it was able to haul all four of my fully loaded 6AA battery packs. So, you know, pretty decent weight. But as I said, I haven't tested it since, so I will give that a go and hope it works, because as I said, I haven't tested it, and you know, it's, as I said, still not fast, but it does carry its own weight quite nicely. And as you can hear, it's kind of crackly, but that's just because with the weight being in the front, it's made for more forward travel than reverse. But it's, as you know, Lego motors aren't the strongest things, and as many people know, Lego could use far stronger, but you know, time is money, and developing a Lego specific version isn't quite the best thing when you can just gear stuff down. But believe me, if I could have made this an 8x8 instead of an 8x4, then I would have. But not a huge option for me. So maybe 4 battery boxes isn't a whole lot of weight, but at a gear ratio that allows it to go the speed it does, being able to, you know, pull around as many battery boxes as it can is pretty impressive in my eyes, anyway. And you know, considering it only took me about 8 hours to make, as I told you, I think it's got a pretty decent time frame on there. And you know, considering it can still function as well as it can without, you know, major disruption, is quite decent, really. And you know, I just think it's cool. So, see if I can turn the lights off and show you just how good those headlights work for anyone that hasn't seen them and is considering getting some. They're quite nice. And You know, part of the reason it's so slow right now is because I haven't charged the battery recently, and that's the one downside that I see to the vehicle is the fact that it's incredibly low on power because I've been using it so much. But the headlights work pretty well. I mean, they make an identifiable notice on the video there. You can see that the vehicle is there. So, and obviously, this camera here is in HD, so you're not going to get the best quality out of it. But through my eyes, I can see where the light is showing, and I think that's pretty good. If I had an HD camera, I assure you I would be giving you little onboard camera views and things like that. Crackling again. So, yeah. And you just adjust it by turning that exhaust pipe right there. So, you know, pretty good model, but I think I've made better. I just think this is the best when it comes to visual effects. You know, it looks a lot better than many others. So, you know, not bad. I'm sure that if you're watching this, you've seen far better builders than me, and you're just bored out of your freaking mind. Because I felt that way about other builders, no offense to anyone else out there. You know, a few of my favorite builders is ZBLJ 1987, I believe it is, and that's his YouTube username. And I don't know his website, but I know someone else, which is kind of my inspiration for a lot of concepts and vehicles, is Serial, and his website is serial.pl, SARIEL.pl, and his username on YouTube is SEARME, and he's a very impressive builder as well. There's also Nico71, Nico. I'm not actually sure that Nico is how you pronounce it, but for any of you who want to just get an amateur start like I have, you know, because these people that I just listed are adults, and this is, you know, they have far more engineering experience than I do. Their creations are likely far better than mine, but nonetheless, if you would like inspiration for amateur building like this, you would likely find it on YouTube and at their web pages and whatnot. And Serial has a Facebook username, and it's the same site as his website, SARIEL.pl. And through his Facebook, you can see how far through a model he is. And you can see his mechanisms and basic tutorials and instructions. And he's very good at responding, as I'm sure many people know. So, in any situation, you would find that he is your best bet for concepts. So, I guess all that said, I've showed you this, and I've decided that I will soon be taking it apart in order to build something better, or perhaps just something different, or a new concept. And I will, I guess, talk to you all later. This is Blade Junkie, signing off. Thanks.